Election day is here. If you haven't been able to vote yet, you've got just a little bit of time left to cast your ballot. And tonight we're also keeping a close eye on big races across the area. We're live with the latest. And on the national level, both Democrats and Republicans seek clues about election night 2024.
And the weather has been absolutely wonderful. And as Ross said earlier, there is just 1 hour left for polls that will be closing tonight. But the weather looks wonderful, so there's no excuse for you to get on out there. I'll be having a full detailed forecast coming up for you later.
Live from downtown Meridian, always local, always on. This is WTOK News 11 at 6.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Ross McLeod. It's election day in Mississippi. You've only got just under an hour left to cast your vote. Tonight we're following all the big races across our area and the state. News 11's Anna Williams and Kristen Hyde join us from voting precincts across the area in our team coverage tonight. We have new crews in Clark County and Lauderdale counties following several highly contested races. We start at Clark County. News 11's Kristen Hyde joins us live to tell us about several races happening there. Kristen?
Yes, Ross, people have been coming out to the polls all day long, making their voices heard here in Clark County. On the ballot, they have some major races: coroner, chancery clerk, a few constables, board of supervisors, and the biggest race is the sheriff's race. I have Troy Dew, the election supervisor for District 3, here to talk about voter turnout. So, Troy, how has that turnout been today?
Well, we reported earlier that it was about average, about an hour or so ago. I just called my precincts in District 3, and we're running about 50 to 55% turnout so far, so that's kind of what I'm projecting. So I would call that a fair turnout as of today.
Gotcha. So what's one of the biggest challenges you think for people to coming out to the polls on Election Day?
Well, this is, out of the 4-year election cycle, Christine, this is the most important because it has the most state elected officials on there and the most county elected officials on there out of the 4-year cycle. So we're hoping that people will come on out this last hour. You got an hour left to get out to vote. If you haven't done so, you're affecting the future leaders of our county and our state. So we want to have a big turnout between now and the polls close at 7.
And what's one of the most important things to, maybe motivate those people that are watching right now to come out and vote?
The decisions, the future of our county and the state will rest upon who goes in office on this election. And so it's important to have your voice heard and get out and make a difference with your vote today.
Well, thank you so much, Troy. Thank you for that information, and thank you for your work at the polls.
Thank you, Christine.
Like he said, you got about an hour to get down here to the polls and vote and make your voices heard. They close at 7 tonight. Live in Quitman, Kristen Hyde, WTOK News 11.
Thank you so much for that, Kristen. Like she just mentioned, there is a highly contested race for sheriff with 4 candidates on the ballot: Republican Anthony Chancellor, Independents Gary Kelly, Abraham McKenzie, and Kenneth Pearson. Now let's head over to Lauderdale County, where News 11's Anna Williams joins us live for a look at how voting has been throughout the day. Anna, how are things looking?
Thanks, Ross. The voter turnout here at Meridian Little Theater has been pretty steady ever since I got here. It's starting to slow down a little bit because I think you only have about an hour to get out to the polls. So if you have not voted yet, you have until 7 o'clock tonight to come on out and vote, and it is so important that you do so because there's lots of important races happening in Lauderdale County tonight. So with me, I have Miss Sue Warner, and she is a precinct worker here, and you've been here all day. We were talking about how long your day has been today. So can you tell me a little bit about how the voter turnout has been all day today?
We've had a great turnout today. It's been steady throughout the majority of the day.
Yeah. So for people that maybe haven't gotten out and voted yet and they can vote, why should they take that initiative and come out and vote today?
Well, we all should come out and vote because that is a way to ensure that our government remains of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So if you have not come out and vote, you have until 7 o'clock. Come out and vote. There are some huge races happening tonight. I know the sheriff's race is a big race. Billy Solly is retiring after 27 years. The coroner's race is a big deal. I think Clayton Cobbler's retiring after 20 years. And of course, everyone's watching the governor's race. We're going to keep you updated on that throughout the night here at WTOK. But for now, Anna Williams, live at Meridian Little Theater for WTOK News 11. Back to you, Ross.
Thank you so much for that, Anna. There are several big local races we're watching in Lauderdale County, the biggest being the sheriff's race. Republican Ward Calhoun is facing off against Democrat Gerald Johnson. The winner of this race will replace current Sheriff Billy Solly, who is retiring after 27 years of service. We're also keeping a close eye on the Lauderdale County coroner's race between Stella McMahon and Rita Jack. Whoever wins this race will be the first female coroner in Lauderdale County history. The Lauderdale County Justice Court Judge District 1 race is also a big one. Democrat Jesse Hill is running against Republican Nick Lisi. Remember that polls do close at 7 tonight. If you are in line by 7 p.m., you can cast your vote. Be sure you can bring a valid ID. This can be in the form of a driver's license, state ID card, or U.S. passport. And it has been a beautiful day, Chase. What can you tell us about tonight, though?
Well, Ross, it definitely has been beautiful, and I know a lot of us were dealing with temperatures well above average at this time of year, into the low to mid 80s across much of Mississippi. But as of right now, it's calmed down quite a lot. But Philadelphia and Decatur still sitting in the mid 70s, 72 down in Livingston and 68 here in Meridian. But as you can see across the board, very clear skies that you really don't have to worry about anything at all. Current wind gusts have calmed down quite a bit. Earlier at the 5 o'clock, we saw wind gusts of 5 to 10 miles per hour, up to 15 in some places. So it is a little bit breezy out there, but as of right now, it looks like things are calming down as the sun continues to set across much of East Mississippi and western Alabama. If you're heading out to the polls, they do close in about an hour, 66 degrees around that time, but as the time goes on, temperatures are going to be dipping down into the low 60s, upper 50s for lows tonight. We will have some fog moving into the overnight hour that can be dangerous for some people, and I'll be going over where exactly it's going to be and how long that you need to be watching out for coming up later. Ross?
Thank you so much for that, Chase. And today is the last major election day before the 2024 presidential primaries kick into high gear, and campaigns will be looking to some bellwether states for clues tonight. Karen Kafa is on Capitol Hill with a look at what to watch.
Election Day 2023's key contests.
Let's get out there. Let's get this thing done.
A big chance for both parties.
Get out and vote. Get out and vote.
To gauge what might motivate voters in 2024.
It does make sense to take a look at any kind of signals that one is getting from people actually going out and voting, or as importantly, not going out and voting.
2 governor's races test Democratic mettle in red states. In Kentucky, incumbent Democrat Andy Beshear faces Republican State Attorney General Daniel Cameron. In Mississippi, Democrat Brandon Presley aims to unseat Republican incumbent Tate Reeves. In Virginia, all 140 seats in the legislature are up for grabs. Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin not on the ballot, but campaigning to turn the state red.
I think voters are going to come out today and they're going to help us hold our House and flip our Senate.
Democrats calling in help from former President Barack Obama.
I'm calling to remind you that today is Election Day in Virginia.
And in Ohio, voters are considering an initiative that would enshrine abortion rights in the state's constitution. It will also offer a look at how reproductive rights are motivating the current electorate.
If it turns out that Democrats don't show up for that one to the same degree that they did even a few months ago, then that would be a real worrying sign for Democrats.
Also on the ballot, every seat in New Jersey's state legislature and in the New York City Council, where Republicans seek to narrow Democrats' typical Northeast strongholds. On Capitol Hill, I'm Karen Kafa.
And after the break, we continue our 2023 general election coverage by taking a look at races happening statewide. The main one being the race for Mississippi's governor. More next. Again, you have just under an hour to head to the polls and cast your ballot in the general election. Voters deciding today who will be the governor and lieutenant governor for the next 4 years. Republican incumbent Tate Reeves faces off against Democrat Brandon Presley, who has served as Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District since 2007. You may have noticed a third name on the ballot. Independent Gwendolyn Gray withdrew from the race last month, but ballots were already printed. Tate Reeves is working hard to maintain his lead in the state. He currently leads in most major polls. Reeves believes his conservative policies are the right move for Mississippi and wants to keep the momentum going.
Well, first of all, is the economy. The fact is we have the lowest unemployment rate in state history. We have more people working today than any time in state history. We've had the best economic development run in the history of our state, with over $6 billion in new projects being announced in 2022 alone. And what I would say to the voters is, you ain't seen nothing yet. If I'm fortunate enough to get 4 more years, we're going to work and work and work to continue to bring more jobs to our state. So I think the economy is certainly important.
If Reeves won, it would be his second term as Mississippi's governor. Meanwhile, Reeves' opponent Brandon Presley's message over the last several months has been a consistent one, focusing more on Medicaid expansion than anything else. It's the one issue that he and Governor Tate Reeves are more at odds on than anything else. Presley says he would expand Medicaid on day one, and it touts his potential success at reviving rural hospitals across the state that are essentially on life support financially. One key criticism from Republican detractors here is the claim that major donations from Democratic causes outside the state will sway how he governs if elected.
Today we feel great about the campaign. We feel great about the fact that we're going to work till the last minute tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll be traveling all over the state once I leave Nettleton this morning, and I'm proud of the campaign we ran. I think Mississippians are ready to see the change for a better in Mississippi, and they're ready to turn the page, ready for a breath of fresh air.
If Presley wins, he would be the first Democrat to be elected governor since Ronnie Musgrove won more than 20 years ago. Now taking a look at some other races happening statewide. Republican incumbent Lynn Fitch and Democrat candidate Greta Kemp Martin are vying to be your Attorney General. Fitch was first elected back in 2020 as Attorney General. The Secretary of State's race between Republican incumbent Michael Watson and Democratic candidate Ty Pinkins. Watson has served as Secretary of State since 2020. And Democratic candidate Larry Bradford is looking to defeat Republican incumbent Chad White in the state auditor's race. White was appointed in 2018 by former Governor Phil Bryant. Coming up, we're taking a break from elections. Patrick Talbot will have the latest on the college football playoff rankings.
And tonight, the low will only be 55 degrees. That's well above average this time of year, with foggy conditions settling into the early morning hours. I'll be going over a more detailed forecast for you coming up after the break.
Always local, always on. This is News 11 at 6.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful day today. Temperatures outside were very warm. A lot of us sitting in the low to mid 80s across much of East Mississippi and western Alabama. And sadly, that is still translating to warmer conditions right now. We're still very much above average for this time of year. And by hour, we're still going to be going on to stay above average for this time of year, up to 10 degrees for our overnight lows. Humidity is starting to ramp up a little bit as our temperature is slowly getting closer to that dew point of 56. Feels like 68 though. Winds have calmed down quite a lot. We did have winds gusting up to 5 to 10 miles per hour, so it could blow off a hat, but as of right now, it's calmed down quite a lot. So if you are last minute heading out to the polls, at least be staying fairly nice for the rest of the night tonight. 66 by that 7 p.m. mark, but we're only going down to the upper 50s by midnight tonight, and we will stay in about the mid to upper 50s for our overnight lows tonight. So clear skies are to be expected until you are going to be waking up early in the morning. You'll start to see some fog moving back into the forecast. So let's talk about that now. Dense fog advisories have been issued for areas south or along I-20 and I-59, so just be very cautious of that. Even though you're not included Scott, Newton, Lauderdale, and Sumter, don't be surprised if you only have if you have an area of dense fog that could limit your visibility to less than half a mile. So just be very cautious. Take a little bit of extra time driving early in the morning. It should be gone out of the way as the sun continues to rise. By around 10 a.m., you should be all good to go for tomorrow. So just be very cautious of that. And as we're looking forward in our future cast here, you're going to be starting 10 p.m. tonight, mid 60s. As you're waking up tomorrow, we'll start to see that dense fog just for a little bit, roughly between the hours of 3 a.m. to about 8 a.m. So just be very cautious of that, especially if you are going around or driving around anytime around that time frame. So by 2 p.m. we'll heat up quite a lot, though. A lot of us sitting in the low to mid 80s for highs tomorrow. So another toasty day that has us well above average. Thursday, start to see a bit of a change, though, as the frontal boundary continues to push further and further towards the east. It's currently sitting in the Great Plains right now, but by Friday we should be seeing its full effect we might be seeing an increased chances of precipitation more towards northern Mississippi around Thursday afternoon, but don't be surprised if someone, especially more towards the Louisville, Macon area, sees a little bit of a drop of rain. But rain forecast has us fairly low, at least for Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, like I said, that frontal boundary is going to be coming through, and that is the best thing that we could be seeing, especially in terms of our drought monitor. Still it's been bad. Exceptional drought is continuing to propagate more towards the east, so we're going to be tracking that in desperate need for more and more rain across Mississippi and Alabama. Now, here's what we saw today. High of 83, low of 46. Average for our low, but way above average on our high. Nowhere close to that record of 88, as we will stay away from the low 90s and upper 80s all the way until Friday. We'll still be in the low 80s, but by the time that we see Friday, we'll see a big change in our weather, with temperatures sitting in the mid to upper 60s with rain in the forecast for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday doesn't look like any type of a washout, so if you do have any Veterans Day plans, doesn't look like it will be any type of washout for that.
3 days of possible generous rainfall, though. I'm very excited about that.
Honestly,
we need that.
We need that so bad. So it's very needed.
Yeah, and I saw the 40s creeping back in there the beginning of next week.
Now it's actually going to feel like fall.
So we're hopefully going to get into fall and stay like fall.
I really hope so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Chase. And coming up in sports, we meet this week's Total Pain Care Team of the Week. But first, the next round of college football playoff rankings are out, where the Crimson Tide and the Ole Miss Rebels wound up after the break.
And now, News 11 Sports.
The second edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings just revealed a couple minutes ago on ESPN. Let's take a quick look at who the top four are. First up, top four stays the same, as Ohio State is at 1, Georgia at 2, Michigan at 3, and Florida State checking in at number 4. Washington probably not getting enough love, in my opinion, as the Huskies and the Oregon Ducks are the first two out. Huskies at 5, Ducks at 6. At 7, the Texas Longhorns come in at number 7 after escaping a Saturday game against Kansas State at home. Meanwhile, the Alabama Crimson Tide checking in at number 8, fresh off their win over the LSU Tigers last Saturday night. The Tide can clinch the SEC West this weekend with a win over Kentucky as they travel to Lexington. Kickoff for the Tide and the Wildcats is at 11 a.m. Like I said last week, keep handling their business, and the Crimson Tide will check in the college football playoff. The Ole Miss Rebels not far behind them, as they are right on their heels at number 9. And the team that they are just behind is the only team they have lost to in the Alabama Crimson Tide this season. The Rebels took care of business against the Aggies this past Saturday, and they could really boost their playoff hopes with the win this weekend. They'll need some help. Alabama will have to drop either this week against Kentucky or the last week of the season against Auburn. Ole Miss travels to Athens for a matchup with Kirby Smart's number 2 Bulldogs. That one kicking off at 6 p.m. And it's Tuesday, so that means it's time to introduce this week's Total Pain Care Team of the Week. This week's Total Pain Care Team of the Week is the West Lauderdale High School Cross Country Team. The boys coming off of winning a state championship this past Saturday. Meanwhile, the girls placed 4th in the 4A state championship. Congratulations to the Knights cross country team on a very successful year, and congratulations on being named this week's Total Pain Care Team of the Week. To nominate your Total Pain Care Team of the Week, head to our website, WTOK.com, click on that sports tab, and then click on the Team of the Week tab, and you'll see a link where you can nominate your team. Fill that out, and your team could be next week's Total Pain Care Team of the Week. Now to the Wildlife Forecast, sponsored by the Vein Clinic at Meridian Plastic Surgery. Peak times for wildlife on Wednesday, November 8th are 7:43 in the morning and 8:03 at night. After the break, if you're looking for a unique holiday experience, try heading across the pond. Details next.
Well, as you are planning to head out for the rest of the night tonight, let's be fairly nice, as the polls will be closing in less than 30 minutes. But what you can expect for the overnight hours, a low of 55. Average for this time of year is only 45 degrees, so we're going to be well above that. And you should be expecting foggy conditions, especially more towards the morning hours. So just be very cautious of that. We'll stay fairly clear until then, so just be watching out for that.
Alrighty, the London Zoo is offering sleepovers from December 18th to December 30th. After checking in, they will get you an exclusive tour of the Lion's Den before making presents for the animals, toasting marshmallows in a fire pit, and enjoying a behind-the-scenes peek at the zoo's nocturnal residence. The experience includes 2 full days of zoo entry at both the London Zoo and the Whipsnade Zoo. Pretty fun.
Have you ever done an overnight at the zoo?
No.
It's fun. It's fun. We had a couple of those back in Oklahoma City growing up, and it was a lot of fun.
I feel like that's a little too scary.
I was scared.
Night at the museum.
Yeah,
that could turn into that.
Yeah, that's basically.
They're alive already.
I was scared of the snakes and the spiders and the birds, but it was a pretty cool experience. Pretty cool experience.
I don't think the Jackson Zoo even offered that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Oh, also, almost 30 minutes out from the polls closing, so head out to vote as well tonight. Make sure your voice is heard. It's a right that we have in America. We need to exercise it to make your voice heard tonight.
Indeed.
Closes at 7 o'clock. You'll have a wonderful evening. Come back at 10 for your latest election results.